Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to call this meeting of the Howell Township governing body to order. This is our April 22nd regular meeting. Ms. Woolman, would you please read the appropriate opening statement and call the roll?
Absolutely. Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner: by the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on December 28, 2007, by the faxing of a copy of said notice to the Ashley Park Press, Tri-Town News, and Star Ledger for publication on December 28, 2007, by the filing of a copy of said former notice in the Township Clerk's office on December 28, 2007. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of Public Law 1975, Chapter 127. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with 3 emergency exits for your safety. Locations are as follows: upon exiting the meeting room, to the rear to immediate left and immediate right, and at the front of the meeting room to the left of the dais. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77. Roll call: Mrs. Dalton? Here. Mr. Howell?
He will not be here this evening.
Mrs. Showmaker?
She's not currently here.
Mr. Walsh?
Present.
Mayor DeVella?
Here. All right, Mrs. Schlegel, I understand we have reason to go into executive session. Is that right?
Yes, Mayor. Personnel, contract negotiations, litigation, and acquisition of property.
Okay. Would you please read the statement, Ms. Woolman, for closed session?
Whereas Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 13 of the New Jersey Revised Statutes require that the public shall not be excluded from any meetings of a public body unless a resolution authorizing such exclusion is adopted at a public meeting. Whereas the Township Council of the Township of Howell has determined that such a closed meeting is required to discuss certain matters which are exempted from consideration with the public in attendance under New Jersey Revised Statutes 10:4-12. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Howell that the public shall be excluded from the next portion of this meeting, and that the Township Council will reconvene in public session thereafter. Be it further resolved that minutes will be kept of the meeting in closed session, and the time and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public cannot be determined at this time.
Okay, we need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second, Mayor.
Any comments? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes, for the benefit of the public, we do expect to be out within the next 30 minutes. Thank you. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to reconvene this meeting to order. This is the governing body's April 22nd regular meeting. We've already had our necessary opening statements and the roll call. We've just concluded with executive session. The time is 7:45. I would ask that everyone please rise for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I would just ask that everyone remain standing for a moment in silent observation of the many troops that defend this country all over the world. Thank you. Okay, before we get to reports, we have the acceptance of minutes. There are various. Our February 9th budget meeting, February 11th workshop and executive session, February 19th regular and executive, February 26th budget, March 11th workshop meeting and executive, March 18th regular and executive, and the March 27th special and executive. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes, Mayor?
We have a motion. We need a second.
Let me, yeah, we removed 327. Would you remove 327 executive?
Okay.
Okay. What about 318?
That's, all right.
Is it in the book?
What about?
It's not in your book, I don't think. I think it was by mistake.
327. I didn't see.
327 is not, right?
Right, I didn't see 318 either.
I didn't either.
Oh, well, if they didn't see it, then we remove it.
All right, so we need a motion, please, excluding the May 18th regular session. March, and the March 27th executive session.
Make a motion to exclude March 18th and 27th executive session and approve the other minutes.
We need a second, please.
And the regular.
And the regulars aren't
And
in
the
there
regular?
either.
Yeah.
The
Regular and executive for both meetings,
I had
actually.
no March, just for the record, in my
Okay.
book, I have no March 11th, 18th, or 27th.
No, I thought March
So
11th.
let me just ask a question. Why is it on the agenda?
Hold on.
They should be in there.
It should be in the book?
Well, I think the issue is that the minutes are extensive because the budget meetings, as we know, until the last budget meeting when we decided and voted that we weren't going to have
I have March 11th.
verbatim minutes.
Just exactly.
So we have all this paper for the for the February budget meeting. So there's a whole lot. I couldn't find March 18th, but I did find March 11th in here.
Only executive, though.
No, both are, I have both.
Okay.
I have March 11th and 18th.
Oh, I have March 18th. Here it is. Okay. Executive.
Just executive, yeah.
Just executive.
I have March 11th regular in my book.
I have March
And
11th regular, too.
I have the 18th.
All right.
So the
Plus
books
that
are,
you,
so the books are incomplete. Some have them. I have it right here, the 18th.
Well,
Do you have the regular or just the executive?
No, I appear to have the regular and the executive.
I have both.
I have the executive, but not regular, but whatever.
Well, we can't vote on them if not everybody has them. So it seems like we know we're inconclusive on the 18th and the 27th. Okay, but does everyone have February 9, 11, 19, 26, and March 11?
Yes.
Everybody has that much? Yes? Okay. So let's just start this again. Mr. Walsh, would you make a motion, please, to approve the February 9, 11, 19, and 26 meetings, which include budget, workshop, executive, and regular?
So moved, Mayor.
We need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments or corrections to the minutes? Okay, hearing none. Roll call, please, on the items noted.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Mrs. Woolman, if you could, for the next regular meeting, just have for everyone's packet completed versions of the 18th and 27th regular, special, and executive. Thank you.
And quick comment on that. As you all notice, these are quite lengthy minutes. I thought we weren't going to do them verbatim again. Are we back to doing them verbatim, or how is that? Just
Only the budget meetings are verbatim.
okay, great. Thanks.
Oh, but that's what I thought we voted not to, I thought we voted not to do verbatim minutes of the budget any longer.
That's what I just asked, and she said they only.
We did not get that impression. Budget meetings are usually always verbatim.
I thought we had a conversation about it either at one of the budget meetings. Mr. Mayor, I could.
No, I
am
have a similar
certain
recollection, but we've gone back and
The
forth over the years
conversation
so
went
many
something like, we
times.
have it on DVD, so if we really need every word, we can,
Go back and get it that way.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So next year, I think
It's a
you're...
lot of work for someone.
All right, under reports, Mrs. Schlegel, we will start with you.
Okay, Mayor, I wanted to just remind the residents about the hearing scheduled for tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at the Memorial Middle School regarding New Jersey American Water's requested rate increase. Additionally, Councilman Walsh, you had requested the lifespan of an ambulance at the last meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I did.
The lifespan, according to a benchmark that's provided by Stone and Webster Management Consultants, the lifespan of an ambulance is 5 years or 100,000 miles. And the average age of our township-owned ambulances presently is 8.9 years. And the average mileage is 49,535. But the our chief mechanic wants me to remind you that the benchmark is a guideline only, and that the main objective of their department is the safety and reliability of all vehicles, regardless of age and mileage. Okay?
So we're over years-wise, the benchmark, and under mileage-wise.
That's correct. That's correct. And I just wanted to let you know that I know Councilwoman Shoemaker had asked about a COA update. It's in your packet. Also, for your next packet will contain a more thorough update from our COA attorney, Mr. Bayer, that came in, and I just didn't have a chance to get it into your packets.
Great.
And there's also, someone had requested more information, I believe it was Councilman Walsh, on the new recycling tax. That's in your packets as well. That's all for me.
I just had something, Mrs. Schlegel, since I think it was in your domain, which is the update on where we are with the bottom, I'm sorry, strike that, the property behind Hoffman Field. We had some discussion that property was intended to be turned over to the Pinelanders Soccer Organization, and you were going to talk to planning board attorney, our attorney. Did you-
Actually,
is there any
yeah,
update?
yes, I did. I spoke with Mr. Cachero, who is our planning board attorney, and asked to have the information that was in the reso for that development. And there were some citizens that had commented that it remained open space and passive, and it was the planning board's recommendation in the resolution that those 11 acres remain open space and passive. However, I just want to let you know that that doesn't encumber the property in any way. The council can change that.
Yeah, what I would ask the council, and maybe this can be put on for a forthcoming workshop, and I know Mr. Davis, who's the historian on this, and at the time Mrs. Schlegel was our rec director, it was very clear that that property that was behind the Hoffman Field was always intended to go toward the Pinelanders. In fact, it was the ultimate rationale that that's why the Pinelanders were not going to move to the Bonham Soccer Complex, was because they had the additional 11 acres to grow their organization immediately behind them, and that enabled us to move girls softball to the Bonham property. So somewhere along the way in the last year or two, maybe in the transition from Mr. Davis to Mr. Czerniecki to our new manager, that just did not see its way through to fruition. But it's clear, as far as my recollection, that that was a formality that was intended to be turned over to the Pinelanders. And so if there's something that the council needs to do, and I don't know from a regulatory perspective what it would be, I'd like the council to do it, because we made a commitment to the Pinelanders that we would in fact be turning that property over to them. So it's sort of a statement and a question. Unless the council disagrees, we made that commitment to this group, what do we need to do to execute that being turned over to them?
Well, I think what first we need to do is let me get the actual physical resolution to Mr. Bongiovanni, just so that he could review it, and then, depending on the direction of the council, how you would like to proceed, and then he can certainly advise us as whether we need to do a resolution or not.
Okay, good. Is that something, when do you think you
more
can
or less,
get back to us?
Yeah, more or less if it would take like an acceptance of the property by the council and then a transaction as a deed transfer.
Who owned, who physically?
We actually would not have to do that because we own the property. We own the property that the Pinelanders is on now.
Right.
And we just permit the property to them. They're not under a lease agreement or anything.
But those 11 acres, who physically is responsible for those 11 acres right now? Is it the
The township.
So it's the town's property.
Right.
So in theory, it's our property. We could, in fact, deed over, well, however the legal mechanism is, it could be leased to them.
Well, permit.
Or permitted as an expansion.
Right.
The issue then must have been, and the discussion at the last meeting must have been, are we somehow prohibited in the...
Right, that was the discussion, but Mr. Cachero was clear in stating that the resolution is a planning board recommendation only, that it does not encumber that land in any way.
And I would just like to see like the deed history and just make sure everything's fine.
What I would ask with the council's indulgence is that however soon you can review that and then give us your recommendation, that I would imagine, if everything is in order, would empower the manager's office through the rec department or whatever it is to facilitate this happening. Because it doesn't seem like you need any action from us. I just want to make sure we keep it on the docket and it gets done.
Okay.
So for the next meeting, you think that could be together?
We'll have an update for you.
Okay. Anything from Mrs. Schlegel on her report? Mr. Filiatri, you look like you have something.
I do have
Go right ahead, sir.
one item. I do believe that many of you may be aware, reading articles and everything, that there is grumblings or mumblings at the state of New Jersey over perhaps restoring some state aid to the municipalities. And given that fact, I thought it would be prudent if we discussed delaying the action we took on our budget to see whether or not we actually do get some state aid. I think it would be a prudent thing for us to do, to wait and see what comes along. And I have two options that I worked out that we could do. One would be an introduction on May 20th and adoption on June 24th, which, given the state of New Jersey, I don't think they're going to finalize their budget on May 20th. I don't think they're going to finalize their budget on June 30th, quite frankly. My preferable one, as far as a time frame, would be to introduce on June 10th and ask the council if we have a special meeting on July 8th for the purpose of public hearing and adoption of the budget only.
I think we have a meeting on July 8th already.
No, I think we only have one
No,
meeting.
just the 15th is the only meeting in July.
Yeah, we
that's
only
scheduled.
have one meeting in July, so we thought possibly on the 8th we could have that budget meeting.
The 15th is a little late as far as getting tax bills out, getting our tax rate certified. The 8th we could work with. It would be like, that's the last minute.
So that would be enough time to introduce it on June 10th, and
Yes, yeah, it takes about 2 days to get our tax rate certified once the budget is adopted, and then we'll be all geared up. We'll be printing the day that the tax rate certified. So that is the possible last minute. We're still looking at an introduction to June 10th. The state probably will not be done with their budget by then, but I would hope that they at least settle whether or not there's going to be any restoration of state aid by that point in time.
Mrs. Dalton?
Okay, so as I understand it, if the state may give us more aid, or may give us aid that we were not expecting.
Yes, or at least restore that they took away from us.
I don't know about the rest of the council, but I don't think I need to really, I think that if that happens, then we're getting more money. We should just restore that money to the surplus that we were taking it from. I sit up here and do not believe that we need to go back into that budget. We've already given direction.
The state, if we adopt a budget, the state will, if they restore aid, will order that the tax rate be further reduced and will not allow us to change our budget. And that's why I feel it prudent to delay.
But what I'm asking is then all we have to do to change the budget is to add back money into the surplus, yes or no?
We won't be able to do that if our budget's already introduced.
Right, but
What you're saying is we have to delay, so to Mrs.
the
Dalton's
introduction.
point, how we decide as a policy-making body to use those dollars is almost irrelevant. We can do exactly what she's suggesting, but your point is, it's a matter
Just
of
wait.
when it becomes introduced, which
Right,
would
we need
cause a problem.
We need
Right.
to wait and see what the state says, and yes,
So-
exactly. Then we need to
so
have a
then the
discussion
meeting
over what we
we're going to have
do
and
with it.
discussion on July 8th won't take much time, I don't think.
I
No, not
I
at all.
agree with Mrs. Dalton.
Exactly.
Oh, exactly. I mean, July 8th would be public hearing on the budget. I
Okay.
really don't anticipate
I don't think there'll be
a
much
lot of
time.
discussion.
Shouldn't be much time.
yeah, we won't have more work to do
You're gonna have
as
to
a
get
governing
the
body, but we have to open it to the public.
No,
That's correct.
yeah, right. And I just wanted to make a point, because we had talked about introduction on May 6th, and I just did want to, have this discussion with you and talk about these options, because I think it's the prudent thing to do.
Okay. Have more questions? Go ahead.
It's, so you strongly recommend we put off introducing the budget to June 10th, Mr. Filiaccio?
I do.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Filiatro? All right, Mrs. Dalton, you want to go first under reports?
Sure, just briefly, Mrs. Schlegel, Mrs. Showmaker, and I had the pleasure and privilege of appearing at the Senior Center on April 11th for the Volunteer Awards Day. It was just a terrific event. The group of people there are just outstanding. Our community has gotten so much praise and thanks for all the things that we do for seniors. It's incomparable to other communities, and I was very honored to be invited and able to participate in that. Also, as the planning board liaison, I know that we got a copy of a letter from Ms. Imateo, who resigned from the planning board, unfortunately, due to employment commitments. The chairman has asked, because almost every time we've had a planning board meeting, the alternates have been seated to vote because of different attendance issues, and we've almost not had a quorum, that we do make an appointment tonight. But I think, we can do that if it's on the agenda. I know I saw...
in front of you as
Okay.
an item that has not been workshopped.
Oh, there was one other thing, but I'll touch base with you. Something that came up at the planning board meeting that I was a little surprised at, that in the R2 zone, we have a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, but in order to get a septic system, we have a minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet. So we have a whole bunch of lots where we have... I'd like someone to look into that, because I am concerned that we've got an inverse condemnation issue if we don't do something about it.
Okay, you want to give me more particulars on that?
Yeah, because there's some,
offline.
offline.
Okay, great.
But I wanted to bring it up just because there was the subject of an application at the planning board meeting last week where the issue came up. The lot's big enough for the zone, but not big enough to get a septic, but we don't have sewers in the area, so,
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, Mrs. Dalton?
No, thanks.
Okay, Mrs. Showmaker?
Just a couple of things, Mayor. Helene, I read the Manasquan Regional Sewer Authority, the minutes, and in here they address, and just for anyone's information, Mrs. Lucy happened to attend that meeting. I've tried to be on top of her attendance for y'all, and she was there. The issue over in Freewood Acres with where they did the carbon inserts, one of the things that I saw in here, it says, to date, the homeowners at 156 West 3rd Street have not granted permission to access their home for a plumbing inspection. Is that the same gentleman?
Yes, it
that
is.
I don't understand. We had a meeting for him to address these issues, and is he not permitting them?
That's correct.
Okay, so therefore he feels that his problem has been resolved, I'm assuming, since he doesn't let them in his home.
I have not had any conversation or communication with them since that meeting.
So I'm going to assume, me personally, I will assume by reading these minutes that that gentleman at 156 West 3rd Street is satisfied with what has been done, given the fact that it states in here, to date, the homeowners have not granted permission to access their home for plumbing inspection, which he stated that anytime anybody needed to be in his home, that he would be more than willing to let them have access.
That's correct.
All right, I just wanted that on the record on that issue. The other issue was I'm not going to go into it too much, but the farmland buffer relief, I saw that there was a detailed memo in there on farmland buffer relief for that.
The Golden Way property?
Yeah, the Golden Way property. It's very hard for me to follow because it seemed like at some juncture things there were permits for but they were kind of not descriptive on exactly what was going on, and now it comes down to where all those particular items need to all be removed. I would like to sit in. I'd like somebody to kind of explain some of this to me, because I know even in our own neighborhood there were issues where there were things that went on. I just want to know what the ruling is on, how who we tell has to, when something is already done after the fact. Is it a part of our policy that the fact is, it's there, that weren't permits, it must be ripped out, and that's across the board, or is it per application or per situation that comes through? That's what I want to know.
Okay. I'll get back to you on that, but I will tell you that, obviously there's been some changes in our personnel and other things like that, and I will tell you that everyone is treated equally through the land use department or the construction code department or whatever, and it's equal across the board. And what's happening now is we are really enforcing the rules that are on the books, and we're going by the book. And just because someone does something and it was wrong, and now, well, sorry, I didn't know, or I did it wrong, doesn't make it okay.
Right.
So I just wanted to be clear that I will tell you that our land use department is extremely thorough, by the book, and treats everyone the same. But I will look into that a little bit more. There's a lot of issues with that we really, don't want to discuss right here.
No, I just want to.
But I will get it, clarify everything for you.
But
we don't want to just say, you did it wrong, it's okay. That's
Right.
not fair to the
That's
other
my point.
residents that are doing things according to the, getting the proper permits and doing the proper things.
right.
And we have rules for a reason.
All right. You know what? When issues like this come before us, it's really not something that we have jurisdiction
That's correct.
to do. So it makes it kind of a hairy area as to how to handle this from the dais, where it shouldn't be handled.
Yeah, I was wondering why it was there also.
Well, what happened is
We got
the resident sent it to you.
Right.
So that's how you got it.
Right.
It would not come to you from us because it doesn't fall under under your reign.
And that's what it makes me a little uncomfortable, because I'm as sure as all of us, maybe Angela does, that we're not on top of every part of every segment of every ordinance, and therefore I don't feel that I'm qualified to give any information or to answer or to give any recommendations.
Like I said, the only reason that you had that was because the residents sent it to you, and you know that happens a lot.
Right.
Yeah. When the answer that they want, they happen not to get. So.
Okay.
Can I just
Go right ahead,
chime
Mrs.
in on that just very briefly, though? The only thing that I have, because I thumbed through the memo that was provided by the Land Use Department, I just, when you go over that information for Mrs. Showmaker, I want to make sure that it seems to me that there's an issue being raised, and I've heard this issue raised in the past, about prior officers approving things or getting, it seemed to me that not necessarily all of what is being complained about was allowed to be built with permit, with approvals at some point, and then someone discovered that things were in the wrong place. And so I have seen that happen in my own neighborhood. I have seen that happen where someone is allowed to buy a home with a shed, and it sits there until they go and apply for a pool, and then they're told your shed is in the farmland buffer. Well, hello, I didn't, it was there when I got my certificate of occupancy, so how did that happen? I just want to understand the policy and how we deal with those issues.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a cut and dry. I know one of the instances in our development, because we live pretty close, is a pool got built. Our inspectors went out and measured. When the hole was dug, everything got the certificate of approval. Pool got put in. Somebody complained. It was 5 feet into the farmland buffer. They wanted the homeowner to rip the pool out.
Oh, my goodness.
How do you do that? Wasn't the homeowner's fault. The homeowner paid for the permits, hired the pool company, did everything they were supposed to do. I mean, he didn't rip the pool out. I don't blame him. Neither would have I. I don't want to say too much because my pool's in the back of my property. I hope it's not in that farmland buffer. But I bought the house. The pool was already there.
Doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It should.
I can
Residents should be able
only
to rely.
speak to moving forward.
Okay.
I can't speak on what happened in the last.
Thank you. And one more last thing.
Anything else, Mrs. Showmaker?
Yeah, one more quick thing. Helene, when I was in that meeting with Jennifer Beam, she had mentioned that she thought it would be prudent for us to have kind of an ad hoc committee to stay on top of COA. Did she mention that to you?
Actually, in the update from Mr. Bayer, our co-attorney, he addresses that right up front. So you should have that within a day or two.
Okay.
And he mentioned exactly what you said about the...
We have a COA committee.
Yeah,
about
what do they do?
What happened to the COA committee that we have? We have the Township COA committee.
This was...
Affordable Housing Advisory.
Correct. We have the Affordable Housing Committee.
Well,
Mrs. Beam knows.
I was not in this meeting, but they had a meeting, and it was discussed to have this committee that I believe had council...
What they had suggested is maybe one or two council members, one or two planning board members, one member or so from the affordable housing, because there are a tremendous amount of issues that need to be addressed. And if you have a representation from every board, then you can bring that back to that board to get a feel, because they don't want to keep working the issues and not coming to a resolution on how to resolve some very important issues that we're going to be faced with.
Mr. Bayer puts in his memo that he recommends that the council appoint that committee. So we'll have that on for May 6th to at least discuss it, if not appoint.
Okay.
I thought that COA advisor Jennifer Beam was also supposed to be involved in that as well.
Yes.
No, yes, she was.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Walsh, anything? Any reports?
Just a couple little things. It is Autism Awareness Month. Having an autistic child. Everybody, I think we're all affected by autism. Over 1 in 150 children now, they say, have autism, and it's climbing all the time. If any of you have ever get the chance to, they do a special thing here in Howell Township called Howmania for the special needs kids in the second week in May. They have at Shark River Park. It's like our own Special Olympics. It's a sight to behold. I cry every time. But it's a great thing between the teachers, between the recreation, some other not-for-profit groups in Howell. They all get together, and it's about 400 special needs kids having Howell's own Special Olympics. It's really a beautiful day. Even when it rains, the sun shines on that day. I would encourage anybody to try to go if they could. It's at Shark River Park. I believe it's May 12th, but you can check with the Board of Ed. And it's a real nice thing. I'd like to get Ms. Nunziata a question. I got a call from a resident about the development being built behind Wawa over there on 9. Is that driftwood in Heritage Point that backs up to it, Mr. Nunziata?
Yes, sir.
Their fence is falling down because they dug out all the trees. They took the buffer down, they took all the dirt out, and their fence is falling out. I didn't know how to address it, so I hope you don't mind, sir. I gave her your name and phone number. I said,
fine.
call Mr. Nunziata, because I said they probably are going to have to put a 50-foot buffer, but they might have to take things out to get done what they had to do.
They do have an approved woodlands plan, and there was some utility extensions that did require clearing of wooded areas. However, we'll have an inspector out there tomorrow morning.
Well, I didn't know what to, so I gave her your phone number.
That's fine.
I said, please call Mr. Nunziata. I don't know how to address that.
Okay, we'll take care of it. Very
I
good.
said, he kind of knows what he's doing. All right? That's all, Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walsh. I had something I'm going to pass down to you, Mrs. Schlegel. I got a letter from a resident, a middle school student, who wrote to me about a problem that I was not aware of, I don't think the council was either, about some vandalism at Deer Park, the skateboard park. And apparently, there was a quarter pipe was stolen from the park. The skateboarders use it. There's now a lock on the gate to prevent this from happening again. And now, according to this young man's letter, Charles Reed, he says, unfortunately, now we're left with only 2 ramps for many children to share, and they would like this half pipe, or quarter pipe, and possibly a half pipe to be reinstalled. I'm sure it's probably something routine, but I'll pass this down to you. I was not aware, I don't think the council was, that there was vandalism, I guess, at that park. Can you elaborate on what we're talking about?
Yeah, actually, this happened a while. This isn't a recent vandalism.
Okay.
I didn't know that there was a lock on the gate. I'll speak to Mr. Froco about that, why there's a lock on the gate. But I don't know if you know how large a quarter pipe is.
Mm-hmm.
To steal a quarter pipe over a 10-foot fence is quite a feat in itself, because it's not something that can fit through a gate.
Correct.
It would have had to have gone over the fence, and
But it was legitimately stolen.
well, it was legitimately stolen. It was legitimately stolen. And
Yeah.
actually, what we'll do is I'll have Mr. Froco look at his capital.
What is it typically made of? Is this a concrete pipe?
No, it's like steel and like a composite material.
It's heavy.
Okay, but it's heavy. Not only that is, it's bolted down into the asphalt.
And somebody stole it?
Picture there's like,
Need a truck.
yeah, picture there's like, I don't know, some stairs going up, okay, and a quarter of a pipe. All right, but it's probably, maybe as high as the dais, maybe a little bit higher.
Oh, my God.
Sounds
Right.
like grown-ups took that quarter pipe to me.
But I will definitely have our Parks and Recreation Director address this.
Could you have him reach out to
I
this young man,
certainly will.
Mr. Reed, and thank him for his letter, and
Sure.
and that we're going to see what we can come up with.
Okay.
And I think that's all that I had. Anything else under reports? All right, there are 2 proclamations, very briefly. One is Arbor Day. Arbor Day is coming up. It is the 25th. Annually, we proclaim April 25th as Arbor Day. I won't read the entire resolution, but back in 1949, the state legislature noted that the last Friday of April will be Arbor Day. I know that I'm going to be going to one of the schools in town. They plant trees throughout the community on Arbor Day, and the Shade Tree Committee does a wonderful job. So we are, in fact, going to continue to declare the last Friday in April, this year it's the 25th, as Arbor Day. And in addition, the Office of Mayor is proclaiming May 1st as Silver Star Banner Day. This one I will read because it is different, and I believe it's the first time that we were made aware of this. It's whereas the Township of Howell has always honored the sacrifice of men and women in the armed forces, and whereas the Silver Star Families of America was formed to make sure we remember the blood sacrifice of our wounded by designing and manufacturing a Silver Star banner and flag. Whereas to this date, the Silver Star Families of America have freely given thousands, hundreds of thousands of silver banners, stars to the wounded and their families. And whereas the members of the Silver Star Families of America have worked tirelessly to provide the wounded of this township and the country with Silver Star banners, flags, care packages. And whereas the Silver Star Families of America's sole mission is that every time someone sees a Silver Star banner in a window or a Silver Star flag flying, that people remember the blood sacrificed for this state and this nation. And then whereas the people and myself as mayor of this community wish that the sacrifice of so many in our armed forces never be forgotten, now therefore be it resolved that I, Joseph M. DeBella, Mayor of Howell Township, do hereby proclaim my appreciation of the Silver Star Families of America and honor their commitment to our wounded armed forces members. I hereby declare May 1st as Silver Star Day, the permanent and official day to honor the wounded soldiers from Howell Township. So that's a first that we were asked and made aware to make that proclamation. I'll pass these back down to you again, Mrs. Schlegel. All right, at this time we're going to go to our hearing of citizens. We have 10 individuals who have signed up to be recognized. I want to remind all of those coming up for public participation to be mindful that we want to give everyone an opportunity to be heard. We would ask that you come forward and be conscious of our 5-minute time parameters so that everyone will have an opportunity to be heard between now and 9:20. First person on the list is Mr. Terry Vaness. Mr. Terry Vaness. Ms. I apologize. Ms. Terry Vaness. Good evening, Ms. Vaness.
Good evening.
We've seen you before, haven't we?
Yes, you have. I'm back again. I was here.
If you would just introduce yourself for the record, your name and address, please.
Absolutely. It's Terry Vaness, and currently live at 3208 Liberty Lane, Wall Township. And this is in reference to property my husband and I own on 160 West Farms Road. All right, I was here back in, and I will try to be very mindful of your 5 minutes. I was here back in December to discuss the issue that we were having with a connection. We're planning to build a new home on the property with connection to city sewer. All right. The issue was around, currently in the area, there is not a Howell Township manhole within a reasonable distance, though there is the MRSA line, here we go with MRSA, that runs across our property on the front corner in an easement, okay? Existing on the property is a MRSA manhole. Existing on the front and in the street, in front of the property, is also an additional MRSA manhole. So the last time I was here, just to remind you, I had gone to your sewer department, went through all the motions, got approval to connect to the MRSA manhole that existed on the property, which would sit about 200 feet away from where we intend, hopefully, to build our new home. And the reason I did that was under the direction of MRSA and Mr. Sevatello, I was directed and instructed that Howell is one of the 4 customers that MRSA has, and that if Howell would be willing to own that line, all right, and the Township Committee would pass a resolution to own that line, then he would have no issue in me tying into that, or us tying into that manhole. Okay. So we went through the whole process. In January of 2007, the Township Committee did pass a resolution to agree to own that line. All right, we are in your sewer district plan, you know, that you guys have set for your community. We are in that plan. We are in the plan for future sewer connection. So when I went back to MRSA to say, okay, I got the resolution, I go back and, anyhow. Bottom line is, when I was back here in December, After a phone call with Mr. Savatello, I was told that we're not going to let you do that. Okay. Why aren't you going to let me do that? Well, I've decided I'm not going to let you do that. It's a completely arbitrary decision. So you had instructed me to please you have representatives on the board of MRSA, and you asked me to go to the MRSA board meeting and plead my case. And I did so in January. All right. I did provide all the information to Mr. Tentillo, Jesse Tentillo, and I did go to the MRSA board meeting. It probably should have been filmed because it was quite an experience. They did hear me. The board was there, and I pleaded my case. Okay, and I explained what had happened, and Mr. Savatello had originally, before, and when I had come to you in December, had said to me, well, he wasn't going to let me connect to the line, to the manhole that he told me he was already, had told me to make the arrangements for. He wanted me to go 2,000 feet across the street, tunnel under the road, put in a lift station, and tie into an existing Howell manhole, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's in the Toll Brothers development. I told him I'm not going to do that. I don't have $150,000 like Toll Brothers. That's not going to. It's just not going to happen. It's stupid. All right. So I go to the MRSA meeting. I plead the case. He then decides, well, maybe that's a little unreasonable. Now, okay, you can't connect to the line that's on your property that will be located, connect to the manhole that's on your property. I want you to connect in the street. Mr. Savatello, the street has been paved. Within the past 3.5 years, it was paved by the county when they redid the bridge. Okay, there's a moratorium on it. Well, I don't care. Okay. I said, well, okay, what I need to do, there was no use in arguing with him. It was like, frankly, and I'll be very blunt, it was like an absolute circus. Questioning my credentials, just beyond ridiculous, okay? So I said, okay, I'll leave, give me the information of the manhole in the street, okay? I will go back to look at whether or not the inverts work, and then I will go back to Howell Township and say, okay, Howell, what would you like me to do? And I will, preface this by, his comment was, frankly, I really don't care what Howell wants to do or what Howell has passed in a resolution. I don't care what they want to do.
And what is this gentleman's title?
He's the
executive director
of MRSA. Okay. Now, this whole circus went on in front of the board of MRSA. Okay.
What did our representatives do and say?
Mayor, I do have some information on this, because I spoke to Mr. Savatello after Ms. Van Ness was here. The reason that she cannot connect into the manhole on her property is that it's a large main interceptor. Okay, so there are no local connections. What would happen, just to give you some idea, is this would be similar to the situation that we've already had experienced in Freewood Acres. It is a main interceptor line, giant main interceptor line that does not accept local connections. So she would have to connect to a local 8-inch sewer line. That's what I was told, is it's a main interceptor that's on your property.
Okay, I understand. Well, I hear what you're saying, okay, but I beg to differ with you, and Mr. Savatello is giving you incorrect information. All right, two issues, okay? I've agreed, and the line has been designed with 2 manholes in place prior to connection. I'm not connecting directly into the MRSA manhole. Mr. Savatello has a very good habit of not providing accurate information or consistent information. All right. Secondly, the manhole he now tells me to tie into in the street is the next manhole in the same line. It's 250 feet away from the manhole he's telling me I can't connect into. It's the same line.
Well, I'm just giving you what
he told you.
Right. The information that I got was that the manhole that's on your property is a main interceptor, so it's a large pipe, and that there are no local connections allowed, and that you would have to tie in to an 8-inch line, which, excuse me, the one on her property.
They're both 18-inch lines.
It's just the next manhole and the same 18-inch line.
Well,
Exactly.
that is not what, I'm just
Okay.
repeating what, I have my
Understood.
notes from December 28th.
You got the map in front of you?
And he says it's a giant main interceptor line. She must tie in across the street into the local sewer 8-inch line.
What can we do? What would you like from us, and what can we do?
Okay, the reason I'm here, I mean, this has gotten to the point of beyond.
Mayor, it's been 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right, and I
Go ahead.
apologize, if you'd like me to come back to the next meeting, I'll be more than happy to.
Well, maybe it's just in summary, so we can save you a trip.
All right.
What do we have the authority to do to remedy this? And I'll be perfectly candid, I don't know this, what's his name, Mr.?
Savatello.
I don't appreciate somebody telling one of our residents who's a subscriber, even if there's a problem, like, I really don't care, that's
He
uncalled for.
absolutely did.
So however the message needs to get back, and I'm happy to call him myself, don't go pushing our residents around. Because the last time I checked, we pay the bills. And if he's got a problem with that, then he can come right here, and I'm sure the five of us will be happy to tell him to lose the attitude. And that's, I'm going on what you're saying, there is always multiple sides, and you could be upset, but on the
There's always
surface,
three sides. I agree.
clearly, we don't want our residents being mistreated. It sounds like what you're saying, Mr. Nunziato, is the pipe sizes are the same. So how do we resolve this and save Mrs. Van Ness more money and more hassle? Any recommendations at all? What can we
Mr.
do?
Nunziato, do you have a recommendation?
Well, I spoke with Ms. Van Ness at length several times, and quite frankly, the way she had explained it, the manhole on her property, 250 feet upstream from where she was okay to connect, that would require, excavation of just regular, soil, not a 14-foot cut on West Farms Road on a curve, which is a very busy road. Nonetheless, the original 2006-2007 utility approval by the township was for the connection on her property, the 200-foot extension, if you will. The 450-foot extension, which would be out on West Farms Road, the other side of the coin is basically, from Mercer's perspective, if in fact you put the manhole on the road, a local Howell connection on the roadway, tapping into Mercer's line, that could possibly be extended for future connections. However, it appears based on the sewer service map that there are no connections to be generated or connected to, because the rest of it is in a discharge to groundwater area. So that...
Mr. Nunziato, I've known you and liked you for 6 years. I have no idea what the heck you're talking about.
Well, the bottom line is it doesn't seem to benefit anyone, quite frankly, to connect out on West Farms Road, and there's a connection...
Let me ask it this way. What can we do to help Ms. Van Ness? Is there a solution that we are authorized to help her with?
Well, we're required to have Mercer's endorsement on the form, so certainly their support of that application, is incumbent. However, it doesn't seem that they're a little reluctant to go with...
Can you intercede?
Just to let you know, we attempted to do that back in December. I don't want, when Ms. Van Ness was here last time, I contacted Mr. Savatello on the 28th, that is in my notes. We tried to do that, and he was pretty clear to me at that time that she could not tie into the one on her house, that she would have to go across the street. Now, obviously, since you talked to him, I haven't even heard that. Since you had spoken to him after that, obviously, then there was a change. So we can certainly call him again, but I don't want to mislead you to believe that we'll be able to get Mercer's endorsement on this.
Can we address, can I?
Go right ahead, Mrs.
I'm breaking my own rules because we're not supposed to do this, but I just want to make a suggestion. I would like us to approach it in a different manner. I would like us to go back to the very beginning where Mr. Civitello asked her to come to the council or to Howell Township. I want to go back to that point because I always read the minutes, and I read the minutes from the meeting that she is attesting to. And it was quite a lengthy conversation that went back and forth, to say the least.
That's to say the least.
And what I would strongly suggest is that we go back to the very beginning where they asked her to come to Howell Township to get permission and find out what it is, why, and this was my question to him, why is it that they would send her to come here for permission if indeed they had no intentions of giving her permission for what they intended her for the first time. Go back to that very first question. Don't address any other questions other than that particular question, because that hasn't been answered. Why would you send somebody here to go that route if your intention was not to let her do what she was asking permission to do? That's number one. Number two, I would like to know, I wouldn't say, I just want to know, what are the size of the piping in both manholes? That's it. Nothing, just the size. You don't want him to go into any dissertation, I don't want him to qualify. I just want to know, what's the size of the lines? And that's the end of that. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less with him.
Mrs. Dalton? You have
All right, I think Mr. Nunziato hit on something when he said that they're asking that the permission would be acceptable for the manhole on West Farms, even though the adjoining areas, no, it doesn't appear at this point that any other property is in the sewer service area in the 208 plan, so it shouldn't make a difference. But who knows what MRSA thinks? I mean, candidly, MRSA's in the business of selling sewers. So if they, regardless of our 208 plan, can put a sewer line in an area where it's accessible to other properties, that's got to be their motivation. I think the answer is, Bill just said, the pipe is 18 inches regardless of where it is.
Right. I want them to tell us that, though, because that's not what he, in the minutes of her meeting, that's not what he said.
So, Mrs. Schlegel, you're going to follow up and pursue that line of
Yes.
questioning, and then we'll get back to you, Ms. Vanessa, in terms of what we find
Yeah,
out.
absolutely.
Okay.
All right?
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out again.
And I appreciate the extra time. And I'll wait to hear from you.
Yeah, Mrs. Schlegel, we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Mr. Portillo, welcome, sir. Come on up.
Good evening, Fred Portillo, Casino Drive.
Hello, Mr. Portillo.
I'd like to speak about COA. I got a copy to an article by Paul Munshine. I don't know if you heard of him.
The columnist for the Star Ledger?
Excuse me?
The columnist for the Star Ledger?
Correct.
Sure.
Okay, I'd like to pass it to you guys.
Could you just pull the mic up? I don't know that they can hear you in the back, Mr. Portillo.
I would like to pass the article to you guys and get your opinion on it.
Thank you.
We just received this.
I got one.
Based on Mr. Munshine's article here, the data that what we used to gather their information was almost incredible. They used old satellite photos. Then they included in their analysis, they included the parkway right-of-way, school properties, soccer fields, and they even included outside town hall as buildable acreage. My question is, how do they come to the numbers? I mean, I think Howell's got, what, 800-some numbers?
We wanted the same thing.
I mean, this begs to be challenged in court or something. I don't know. I mean, it's almost incredible to read how they operate. When the lady that runs COA, Mrs. Lucy Wareve, when they questioned her on their analysis, she basically said that it was impossible for them to, just to paraphrase what she said, that they couldn't analyze all 566 municipalities. So the question is, where do they get their numbers from? And what are the options of the town to deal with a situation like this? I mean, the whole thing is almost, it's just incredible. I don't know how to, I personally, I think it'd be great if towns can get together and fight this, because I'm going to tell you right now, it's only going to be worse. I have my opinion of COA, and the next round's going to be worse than this one.
Would you please elaborate on your opinion of COA?
Well, you got developers on there, you got the special interest. Need I say more? it has nothing to do with affordable housing. It's more like unaffordable housing, to be honest with you. So I just wanted to pass this information out to the
We
council.
appreciate you sharing it with us. Thank you.
And see if, maybe, because he writes a great article, but I don't know how many people read it. And if more towns were aware of this, it'd be great. Maybe we can get together and do something, because this is ridiculous. And I just want to, the second topic that I want to discuss, brief topic. My understanding is that Mr. Corzine cut the funding in our town. I think he left enough there to dinner for two at the Chapter House, right? Are you aware that he's paying, that he's funding the municipal budget for some towns like, cities like Newark, Camden?
Oh, sure.
Are you aware of that?
Well, Governor Corzine, in my estimation, he's horrific. It's unconscionable. He's cutting state aid to towns like Howell and in neighboring communities in Monmouth, and money's being poured into Newark and Camden and Jersey City. Sure. And it's unfortunately a function of politics.
He used the Abbott district as an excuse. The court-mandated Abbott district, the funding of their school system, has nothing to do with him funding their municipal budget. This is something that he wants to do on his own to take care of his buddies, in my opinion. So, I just...
The solution is, when he decides to run for re-election again, just the taxpayers of New Jersey just have to vote for somebody else.
Well, I know how I'm voting, but in the meantime, you're stuck with this problem, and... But I wasn't aware if the council was, had this information.
Yeah, last year, the big government shutdown was all a big farce because they wound up spending half the money on Christmas tree projects that they gave back to all the big inner cities. So
right.
The governor has no credibility.
And I don't know how many millions was spent just on the study to do the tolls. Anyway,
well, thank you for giving us this article.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Trish Veracchio. Good evening. Good to see you, Trish. How are you? If you wouldn't mind, just for the record, if you'd give us your name and address, please.
My name is Patricia Vericchio. I reside at 4 Quail Tree Lane. I'm also a member of the Howell Township First Aid and Rescue Squad. I'm an EMT. And the town has very nicely arranged for a LoSAP award program. Every year we have to meet certain criteria to get this little bit of money put in an account for us so when we retire. I did my job last year. I met my goals that you set for us, and I got my report from the firm that you people hired, AIG, and they have not put any money in for last year for me or for a few other members. And I'd like to know, where is the money, when am I getting it, and why weren't we notified that we weren't being given any money?
Mr. Veracchio, can you?
Yeah, there was a report that we had made at every other year. We're supposed to have the auditor do a compilation report. And the first year, the AIG Valak had made an error in the contribution amount, and they're calculating out a correction. I have the money here. I have it ready to pay. I'm waiting for the final calculations from them they're going to correct by just whatever was put in too much 2 years ago. They were going to assign to this year and just have us pay the difference to correct the error. So we're waiting for their calculation, and then I'll make the payment.
Is there a way, just as a recommendation, maybe through the manager's office, we could send a letter to the leads of the 3 squads, just to let them know that there was an error, and they can potentially communicate that to their members who are impacted, because they might not know, and as we have this one member getting a statement, it looks like they're not getting the credit.
Right.
Do you have a timeline on when it would be corrected?
Yeah, well, I was told it would be ready by February. right, by Valley. So I think they're a little late, and I have been calling them and have been following up on them. I just don't have the final figures from them yet.
All right, so the answer for you, Trish, and for the other members that have been impacted is, it appears as if there was an error by the company that administers this retirement plan. Mrs. Schlegel will get a letter to the leads of the 3 squads that participate in the program, and we'll get a definitive date on when you can expect to have the money put back into your account, and it'll be retroactive. So the dollars will obviously be put back into the 457 account.
You're saying there was an error on their part by the amount? They
Yeah.
gave us too much?
Yes. They actually used fire district amount rather than EMTs, and they are different amounts by the state.
Because there is somewhere in here, it does say it does go up. I have to find it.
It goes up by an inflation factor. The state does publish the figures, but
Yeah.
the first year, there are actually 2 charts. There's a chart for firemen, there's a chart for first aid and EMTs. And they used the wrong chart, and it isn't that's a few $100s, but they did use the wrong chart when they calculated out that first year. Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only criticism that I guess that I would have is I'm surprised that the impacted members were not notified of this
From either AIG or you.
error. So
Nobody-
if we could get an explanation out, Mrs. Schlegel, that at least lets the members know what to expect, it will be obviously corrected. I mean, LoSAP is a program that was implemented by voter referendum, so
Certainly.
this is something that obviously is of some importance. Okay, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Dixell, good evening, welcome.
I'm good, Mayor, thank you.
Good evening, Barbara Dixell, the Villagers. I'll wait for the mayor to come back.
Will we see you tomorrow night, Mrs. Dixell?
Oh, honey, I can't wait.
Just want to make sure.
Oh, baby, I can't wait. I have been working on testimony and records for weeks.
Should we bring a pillow?
No, you should not. No, you
How
should
are you,
not,
Mrs.
but I'm
Dixell? What do you have
fired-
for us?
I'm fired and ready.
You're ready for tomorrow, terrific. What else do you have for
Okay.
us?
To the mayor and council, from Barbara Dixell, regarding the C1 designation of the Manasquan River. In our continuing efforts to have the Manasquan River declared a Category 1 river in need of protection, please redraft a resolution to send to Governor Corzine, the DEP, the freeholders, and Steve Taylor of the Manasquan River Watershed Association, based on the latest updated information from the DEP dated March 3rd, 2008, as follows. Category 1 waters means those waters designated for protection from measurable changes in water quality based on exceptional ecological significance, exceptional recreational significance, exceptional water supply significance, or exceptional fisheries resources to protect their aesthetic value, color, clarity, scenic setting, and ecological integrity, habitat, water quality, and biological functions. I did speak with Rob Carl of Brick Utilities, who faxed me this information, as it is on the DEP website. I have attached this information to my report for your review. The Metedeconk and the Manasquan rivers are similar in their significance for water supply, but the Metedeconk is a C1 Category 1 designation and the Manasquan is not, and both rivers pump water into their reservoirs. The Manasquan River has a recreational significance and would fit into the updated C1 information. It is my opinion that the Manasquan River does meet most of the updated criteria for Category 1 redesignation. And it is also my continued pleasure to serve Howell as the representative to the Metedeconk Watershed Alliance Protection. Okay, and for the, just want to read, exceptional water significance means water supply system that serves a population greater than 100,000, including any reservoirs and their natural tributaries from source to reservoir. It would be very good for us to try and retry to do this. I know we did it a while ago. Might be good to, I'm just gonna open my
my one remaining copy of my stream map that I colored. The Manasquan River flows this way, and there's a lot of tributaries into and out of. The Metedeconk is on the bottom also with tributaries, so it might be an R, and they're a C1. So it might be in our best interest to try and redo this again, and maybe just by some stroke of luck we can get a C1 designation. But this stuff has been redesignated, and I'm giving you all the copies to read.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Dixell. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Absolutely.
Okay. Janice Ramasukis. Boy, thanks.
You bailed him out.
You bailed me out is right. Good evening, Mrs. Ramasukis.
He was about to say Janice B. or Janice I.
I always just to say Janice because...
Well, welcome, Janice. Good evening. If you just give us your name and address for the record,
Janice
please.
Ramasukis, 314 Baker Road. I'm here about the MAC Athletic Center appeal about the denial of the land use variance by the zoning board. First, I want to thank the zoning board for them recognizing that this was not the place for this facility. I have a petition for you from a lot of concerned citizens of the area that are very concerned about the traffic. Traffic is going to be a major problem, and it was brought up quite a bit at the zoning meeting about how the Route 33 light would have to be changed, how it would impact the whole area, Brickyard Road, you know, the whole, on the other side, all the people coming and not wanting to get down 5 Points Road. And the other concern that we have is that the 7-story building on a Royal Road. We don't even have a 7-story building in Howell Township, and we're going to put a 7-story building on a Royal Road when a 6-story one was denied on Route 9. And according to the master plan, this is not a permitted use for a zoned SED area with 6 acres. I'm one of a member of a group of adjacent property owners that have retained a lawyer to watch in our interest for this, because these are our homes and we need to protect them and our way of life. And this facility will change our way of life. The traffic, the noise, and just the idea that it just doesn't belong here. And our homes are very important to us and we need to protect them. I'm asking you as the council to use whatever means you need to support the decision that the zoning board made, because it's important to your constituents here in Howell that this does not pass or get unturned. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
I'll
Leave that
file
with
it that
Mrs.
clerk's
Schlegel.
office.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time. Mrs. Smith, good evening. Welcome. Good evening, Mrs. Smith.
Good evening.
How can we help you tonight?
Pauline Smith, Vanderveer Road. I have lots of things to say, but I think that what Janice said was so important that I want to back her up and bring some things to your attention that I'm sure you know, but you might not remember. It was a good decision by the Board of Adjustment. It was a long case. They heard a lot. In my opinion, in watching it and then in speaking, is that the applicant had no regard at all for who lived there. They want to do what they want to do, and that's all. And you're supposed to represent us, not them. I know I've heard several remarks over the years, and even recently, that certain things want to come into the township or certain people, and there's always somebody to stop them. Well, maybe that's with good reason. I'm not going to argue the issues of the case, even though it's a matter of, it's been done, so it's a matter of public record, and there would be nothing wrong with it, but I'm not going to take up your time. The point that I really want to make, that I want to remind you of, is that something like this would necessitate widening the road. the applicant promised to take on the expense. That's no problem. We'll widen the road. In order to widen the road, though, there are several homes that would be lost. When something about like that comment was made, the attorney for the applicant said, well, that's the township's right-of-way. The township's right-of-way, so-called, is strictly an easement on private property for the future use, when necessary. And it's an issue of public, not private benefit. And if and when that takes place, the township would literally take. It's a taking. And we're not compensated one penny. You live in housing developments. You don't have that. This was put on us to accommodate you. And don't misunderstand or be insulted. But the people that, and businesses, and the new roads don't have that. But you take from, it's taken from us to accommodate for more people. Why shouldn't we stand up and say no? And the area was zoned the way it was to accommodate that, because those people were there, those houses were there, and we're asking you to respect that and to support the defense of the Board of Adjustment's decision.
I'd like to ask you a question just so I'm clear about something.
Sure.
Where were they going to take people's homes? On Fairfield Road? I'm just asking.
Yes, yeah, that's what happened. The widening of the roads would go right up to several houses, right up, exactly up to the house themselves. Because it's an old road, it was much more narrow, the houses were farther away from the road, but as the road's been widened, it's come so close that the next taking would cost the homes.
So they were going to widen the road right up to the railroad tracks there, and those homes are right on the road. Because, you know, I live a half mile from there.
Right. The houses, it would go beyond that because we complained, and I think, or not complained, we brought to the attention that if they have 1,000 parking spaces, they're going to need, there's going to produce a lot of traffic, and they should take into consideration not just one end or the other end of Fairfield Road, but the intersections of Merrick and Bennett. And that was, you know, and the impact on all the people in between. So they very, very definitely said, no problem, we'll widen the road. And when, as I said before, when somebody made a statement about, well, what about the people that live there? Well, that's the right-of-way anyway. It's not a right-of-way to benefit or create a business, a home, or anything else for anybody. It's if the traffic is already there. And if it's not done, and they're allowed to build there, the traffic will come, and the people will be forced out anyway. And that's not fair to do anyway. I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I just ask you to please be very definite. If the Board of Adjustment needs resources, please okay them and make sure that it's properly defended, because I've seen a lot of things that were either settled, and please don't let them settle.
Mayor, that's 5 minutes.
That will just,
Thank you.
that will counter the decision made, and the decision was made very, if you go back or if you've observed any of the hearings, it was not an easy decision, and it was a long, hard.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
So I would please ask you to, these are just some of the people. There are a lot more involved.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith, welcome. Come on.
I'm going to give my time to Josette McLaren because she was too late to sign.
Oh, we'll put her on regardless. But
I'll speak on my...
Oh, okay. So she's got your time. Terrific. Yeah. Mrs. McLaren, welcome. Come on up.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, Josette McLaren, 59 Gristmill Road.
Could you just pull the mic? Perfect. Thank you.
Just here to ask the council to support the zoning board's decision regarding the MAC facility. As you can see from the petition, there is a huge group of residents that support that decision, and I'm here to ask you, if it does go to appeal, to support the decision.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments.
May
Mr. Nicastro.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Pagliavani, does this come to us?
Now, the council's already taking the action that resulted in a way, the denial of the variance, because it's a non-permitted use. And evidently, not enough zoning board members agreed that the applicant met the statutory criterion to overturn essentially what the township has provided for in that area. So the township has already done its work by having an ordinance in place that brought the case to the zoning board. The zoning board is an independent body. They have a right to fight the appeals if there are appeals. And I think this one may be appealed already, which is another reason why the council probably should minimize discussion of it. Usually, and I haven't ever heard, I've been in and around zoning board politics and legislative history and zoning board business for 20 years, and I can't remember a time where the zoning board didn't have adequate backing financially to challenge or to fight a challenge in court. So I also can't remember the council ever like drafting a resolution or something like that saying we support the zoning board's decision. That would sort of interfere with the idea that it's an independent body.
Thank you.
So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pagliavani. Mr. Nicastro, good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. Rob Nicastro, 28 Streambank Drive. I got a quick question about the budget, but first I got a quick statement.
Sure.
At the last meeting, you guys made a bold decision to come in with a flat tax rate. It's bittersweet for me as a homeowner, only because, A, we're going to see a cut in services and our taxes aren't going down, and B, I think because of this budget, many people are going to lose their jobs or get laid off. And in this economical times, it's hard enough to put food on the table, and it's just a sad thing to people have to go through. But I think there's blame to go around. So one of my hopes is that maybe the unions and the town would, in good faith, come back to collective bargaining and try to work this out to save some of these jobs. Another issue was, during the budget process, it was noted that how the tax rates are coming to the town. 83.2 comes from residential, 3.8 from vacant land, 1.6 is industrial, 9.7 is farm. And I think also during the budget process, you guys showed that you continue to exercise a tremendous amount of fiscal discipline, but yet the people still don't support the budgets because we can't afford it. So my question is, moving forward, is there going to be a plan, an economical plan, strategically, and how we're going to raise more revenues in this town? Because next year it's just going to get worse. And again, it's a bittersweet. It's nice that our taxes aren't going to go up, municipality portion, but we're still going to pay the same amount of taxes, get less service, and people lose their jobs. So I think the bigger picture is, moving forward, what's going to be a stimulus and strategic, comprehensive plan to generate more revenue in this town. And that's got to be the priority, and will that be a priority?
I agree with you.
Well, it's a catch-22, man. You mind?
Please, go right ahead, Mr.
Well, the Finance Review Committee, I'm liaison to the Finance Review Committee, and the total focus of the Finance Review Committee will be on increasing revenues. And you got to watch increasing revenues, too. You just can't, I mean, I look at fees sometimes as all they are is just taxing the people in a different way. So it can't just be let's jack up a fee here, let's jack up a fee there, and let's raise more revenue that way, because when it comes back to the homeowner, it's just another tax. So, but the Finance Review Committee is looking at some things. That's where their focus will be. I know the manager's doing an in-depth survey, say, of all the land we have and what is usable, what is not usable. We do have other things like Councilwoman Schumacher spoke about with COA obligations that we're going to be faced with. And what do you do there? It is a catch-22, and there's no cure-all. We just heard residents talk about that they don't want their way of life affected. It's also 100 acres of land right near a highway. I mean, it's a delicate balance. And by the way, I live over by there also, just so you know. But, you know, the focus has to be on the revenue side because the cost side isn't going down. The department heads did a great job this year of cutting their operational expenses. It has to be an increase in revenue. You know, we are open to listening to anybody who has reasonable solutions to a problem that you're right is going to get worse. It's not going to get better. It's going to, in the paper yesterday was Freehold Township laying off 9 people. Jackson just shut down its code enforcement, I believe. You know, more and more things are going to get cut down in towns. And when you outsource them, at the end, you will pay more for less. You will not get more for less. Find out when you don't have 7 trucks to plow your roads, how much it costs you. It'll cost you a lot less when you have those 7 trucks. When you don't have the capabilities of doing it yourself, the outside operators have you. So it has to be on revenue, and it's going to take time. And I've listened to the mayor, Councilman Schumer, address this for a while. Okay? A lot of people, they don't like to hear the answer.
What is the answer to generating revenue? Because fees don't generate revenue.
Yeah.
What is the answer? What is the Finance Review Committee looking at to generate revenue?
Looking at property, another thing that they've been tossing around, just did a study before, is putting sewers on Route 9. Not having sewers on Route 9. I mean, I didn't know that till 5 years ago. That we had no sewers on our highways.
Up until recently.
Up until recently.
Yeah, we put it in.
I mean, that is not economically feasible to a town. The thing is the cost that goes along with putting those sewers in. There's a huge cost. There's a huge outlay of capital. But look at the better ratables there are now in the southern part of Howell. Yes, it causes more traffic. There's no doubt about it. How's going to grow? Well, what was the number they said it would max out at? 72 or 74,000? And it's only like 54,000 now. There is land here. And they will be fighting over this land. As builders have less and less ground to build on, they will fight over this land in Howell more and more because they want to build and make money. So the thing is to get the things you'd like to have. I don't want to affect people's lives negatively, so I'm not going to bring up anything in particular at this moment. But, you know, we do have to look at the revenue side. The only thing that you could positively affect is the revenue side of the equation. You don't have total control over the other sides of the equation. It'd be nice if everybody sat in the room and played nice and say, we have no money this year, everybody take less. You're in a union, Mr. DeCastro. You know, it really doesn't work that way. I made some difficult decisions I haven't made this year. I told the mayor before I had to lay off 3 more people from my company today. One woman was with me 7 years, another woman with me 8 years. One woman just went and got her own apartment a month ago, and she got laid off today. Wasn't a pleasurable thing to do. But as a private business owner, what choices do I have? You don't have those exact choices in government. Okay, we get to tell the manager, this is what we would like to see happen. In this form of government, the manager executes. The manager executes. And they wouldn't be all the decisions I would make, but that's not my right. We only have the right to choose a manager. I mean, it's not everybody sit down and let's play nice. Doesn't work that way. Everybody wants relief off of somebody else's back. Everybody wants everybody else to give, but doesn't want to give themselves. It'd be nice if everybody sat down and say, there's no money, everybody give up 2% this year. Who wants to give up 2%? No one.
Well, like I said, I'm on both sides of the aisle. I mean, I've been in the union, like you said, and I also own my own business. And there is blame to go around on both sides. The unions need to come, the township needs to get together, in good faith, like I said, collective bargaining, and if the union could save some jobs, then that's the way they should do it. But my business is also down 35%, and I could tell you that I'm looking at every way to be creative, not to fire people, lay people off. So I'm not saying it's an easy solution, but what I'm just leading to is that there has to be a plan, which you say there is, so that's good to hear. And I think that just the benchmark of the 83% how Monmouth County does residential for their ratables, we might have to, I don't like to say invent the wheel, but maybe we have to be the leaders to say this ain't the way. We can't just keep, you know, depending on the residential ratables. You know, I know people don't like business. There's always an argument about ratables, good ratables, bad ratables, but you have to live in a cocoon. You have to be blind to see what's going on. You can't continue to go down this route. So to have 83% residential ratable, and I'm not going to say that it's right, maybe that, you know, 9.7 commercial, there's going to be an argument that 9.7 is too high now. I hear it, but there has to be a plan, and
not everyone's going to like the answer. Like I said, everybody would like relief, just not on them. And a lot of people like a lot of good ratables, but not in their backyard.
But people have to understand also that their taxes aren't going down. You're cutting service. I mean, you're listening to the people. The people spoke. They said they don't want tax increases. But your tax don't go down. You're going to get less service. And like I said, it's a bittersweet. Yeah, I'm happy that my taxes are going up, but like I said, people are losing their jobs, and my taxes aren't going down, and I'm not going to get any more service. I'm going to get less. So I don't know how that could be a win, but
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Mr. Nicastro. Having been here 6 years, there is no easy solution. Norma Marino. Ms. Marino?
Guys, do not engage in conversation because Mrs. Smith is already annoyed that we are giving people one time.
I haven't said a word, but if somebody needs help, you got to help them.
Of course.
Like a woman, you know, in the sewer.
I agree with you on every comment you make.
Good evening, Ms. Marino.
Hi.
Welcome.
Norma Marino, 354 Fairfield Road. I think some of the things that I came to speak about tonight has been said, but I thought I'd just add a few more things. I'm not sure how you are, as a body, connected to the decision that was made for the athlete place on Fairfield Road. I have been living there for over 20 years, and one of the repercussions of this business is that I will lose frontage. My house will be devalued. The traffic right now has gotten to the point that the cars back up because I have to wait for the light on Route 33 in Fairfield. We spent countless of meetings already with this project. We said no. We talked, the client spoke, we spoke, and the decision was no. But now I hear they've taken it to court, which means that, again, we are in front of this again. And we are appealing to you because I am new to this, in this position of speaking to you. I have seen you on TV. Sometimes you look a little bit sort of bored with what people come and say over and over again. That you consider this, that this business is too colossal for this area. And whether it's taxes that it brings or not, which I heard that as far as taxes, is not this great benefit that this township will be getting.
Let me share with you, because you raised some good observations about just the process. The zoning board, as Mr. Bongiovanni has pointed out, is a separate, independent, autonomous agency of this municipal government. And in fact, it's the same way in any municipality in New Jersey. They are appointed, the members of the board are appointed by this body. But other than that, we are absolutely prohibited from becoming engaged in the decision-making process that the board goes through. We set the ordinances, the laws of the town, if you will, that determine, among other things, from a land use perspective, what's permitted in certain zones and what's not permitted in certain zones.
Right.
It is actually the role of the zoning board to be the jury in our community when someone wants to do something in an area where it is not prohibited. So they are the zoning board of adjustment. Their job is to listen to the petitioner's request of why they want to do something that the area does not permit. They are, in fact, the local judiciary, if you will, of how those disputed issues get resolved. It is not statutorily acceptable for the members of the governing body, of the council, to interfere, weigh in, and potentially compromise the integrity of that process. And there's a couple of reasons why. One is we are the appointing authority. So we appoint the members to the board. So someone could argue, if we try to weigh in on a case, that we are influencing their decision because we appointed them. So the members of the council and I have to be very judicious about how we can comment on these cases. And as is the case in any kind of pseudo-legal process, the applicant, if you will, has certain rights. Whether we like it or not,
correct,
they certainly have due process. So after they go through their hearing with the Zoning Board of Adjustments, they do have the right, and any applicant, if they disagree with the decision of the Zoning Board, to file a lawsuit and to bring it to the appropriate venue in the court system. And then a judge gets charged with determining whether or not the Zoning Board followed the right process, interpreted the laws correctly, and appropriately handled the proceedings of the case. No one likes it to get to that route, because then the municipality is sort of subjected to an outsider's view in terms of what ultimately is going to happen. But to be very clear to all of you, you all live here. I don't live that far from this location either. But the council truly can, and it's not because the 5 people here don't care. It's not because we're not sympathetic, and it's not because we're not concerned. But because of the way the process is designed. We have the same issue when it comes to the planning board. We can't come out and say, we're against this. Because what happens is we will, in fact, corrupt the integrity of the process.
I understand that, yeah.
So what we will do is we will be sure that we are mindful of our obligations to be independent and impartial, not create any commentary that could be deemed as inappropriate to swaying the decisions of the zoning board, and we will certainly make sure that we listen to what everybody has to say. And if for some reason, outside of the normal process, we did have to get involved, we could do so, knowing that we have in no way, shape, or form prejudiced the process.
Very good. I'm
that,
happy
honestly,
to hear
is that's the explanation. Mr. Bongiovanni, would there ever be, in the process, a venue for the governing body to get involved in this case?
I suppose it's hypothetical, and I'm not talking about this case, but in any case, I have seen some cases settled where the applicants and the representatives of the people who oppose the application, if they come up with some sort of a compromise that requires, for example, a modification of an ordinance, then, those groups might then make it known that they would like to meet with township officials to discuss whether or not that would be an acceptable legislative solution to a problem.
Other than that, and in fact, I will tell you that I think it's fairly common knowledge, the attorney for this particular applicant contacted this building and requested to have a meeting with Mr. Walsh and I, and we told him absolutely not. Not only could we not meet with you, it would be inappropriate to meet with you because we could potentially compromise the integrity of the process. So you certainly have our word that the 5 members of this body are going to not prejudice the outcome of this case, and we're sympathetic to everything that's going on. And the zoning board has good members. They're regular residents just like all of us, And they're listening to everything. And I will tell you, in fairness to the zoning board members, it's a tough job. It's a thankless job. It's a tough job. They've got to listen to all the facts and try and make the right decision. And it's not black and white. Because for everyone that is against it, there's another group of people who are for it, and then there's another group of people who are against it.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's true.
It's
But
hard.
usually the ones that are for it don't live in the area.
You raise a good point.
So.
But I hope I've given
Yeah.
you an adequate explanation.
Yes, you have.
And thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Okay, nice to see you. Okay, that's going to close the public portion. I'm going to call the council's attention back to our agenda. Oh, goodness, Ms. Darton, I apologize.
You covered it all very nicely.
You know what? I apologize, Mrs. Groton. You signed right after Mr. Nicastro, and I apologize. Do you want to be recognized?
No, Helene Schlegel said it, Bon Giovanni said it, Mr. Walsh said it, you said it. Fairfield Road is not the place. That's it.
Thank you. All right.
Hold on.
Well, no, yeah, please. We didn't say what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. We explained our independent role.
But you explained it, and that's all I was going to do was
Good.
question you again.
We'll give you our process. All right, I'm going to call the council's attention. First and foremost, I'd like a motion to add onto the agenda what would constitute Article 9C8, which would be a motion to appoint a replacement member to the zoning board based on a resignation of an alternate. Planning board. So is there a motion to add on 9C8, and we'll accept nominations?
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any comments or remarks? Hearing none, this is to add on 9C8, appointment to the planning board. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor Della?
Yes. Okay, we've workshopped these items, so as a result, I'm going to ask for a motion to move all of the items that are identified as consent agenda, excluding item 9C8, for which we will have a separate vote. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Second,
I have
Mayor.
a motion and a second. Any comments or remarks?
One quick comment.
Go right ahead.
On 9B15, if I can ask Mr. Nunziato. Mr. Nunziato, I know there were, on a maintenance agreement, guarantee on White Castle, there were some trees or something that had to be
15?
9B19.
Oh, 19, okay.
Yeah, I thought you said 15, too.
9B19. There were some things that had to be replaced or something that we were, an outside entity was doing that or something, I recall?
Yeah,
That's been satisfied?
This is actually for sewer utility.
Oh, okay. I thought it said maintenance agreement. It does say
Maintenance
maintenance
bond.
agreement.
No. This is that performance bond is being released and the maintenance bond is being accepted.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, wait, this is return of maintenance guarantee.
yeah, it says-
It doesn't really get returned, it expires. In other words, if you don't find any deficiencies in that maintenance period, the bond simply, you either place a claim against defects or you don't.
But my question is, I thought we did for trees that had to be replaced, or there was a problem there. I recall that. Maybe I'm
About a last meeting or the meeting
There was a
before.
few meetings back on the White Castle, there were trees. There was an
Yes,
area
there
of trees that had to be replaced, and White Castle was not, they themselves were not taking care of it, and we were having an outside
Sure.
entity or
That's correct.
something taking care of it. Were they replaced
Absolutely.
before we redo this, authorize the return of the maintenance agreement?
Okay.
Guarantee.
All right, it sounds as if we're not prepared to act on 9B19.
All right. You can pull it, but I distinctly recall receiving information after that happened, that there was another check on it, and we were withdrawing our objections to it because they had...
Great. As long as that's been taken care of, because it was
That
brought...
was the information I received, but that normally comes through...
All right, so you're vouching that this is
That normally
appropriate?
comes through engineering.
There
and
should
I-
be a memo there.
Councilwoman Schumacher is correct.
Why don't we have a safe side?
There should be a memo there.
All right, why don't you, we'll come back, because I think, Mrs. Shoemaker, do you have any
Why
other
don't you
questions?
do that separate, Mayor, and then you'll give time for Mr. Bon Giovanni to pull that memo and
Okay.
see.
We have other questions. Mr. Walsh, go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, two little things. I noticed that there were two bids for the lift system down on 9B24, Mr. Nunziata.
No, that would be me.
Oh, that would be you, Mr. Slade?
Right.
Both were over what we had, what they initially said it would cost?
That's correct.
So What will we do now in this instance? They don't find somebody to do it?
Well, here's what they'll do. Obviously, perhaps, I shouldn't say obviously, perhaps we bid out a Cadillac and could afford a Volkswagen.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll go back and the specifications will be redone,
Okay.
okay, knowing that it needs to fall within the 100,000 that was allocated.
Because I traded in my Cadillac and got a Chevy only a couple weeks ago because of Don Smith making comments about my Cadillacs.
I drive
Okay? I mean, if that's what it is, please.
That's what it is. There were two bids, and I believe
They were both 17 and 26,000 over.
Right, it was $27,475 over the allocated amount. So what needs to happen is they need to go back and they need to do some work on that specification so that it falls within the 100,000.
Because I remember talking about this, there was a safety issue and things of that nature, and now I see that the bids are 25 to 30% more than we appropriated. What's going on here?
So they need to sharpen the pencil.
Okay, break it. I'll buy him a new one. Tell him to break the pencil. And I also, 9B26, we've been going back and forth with Christ Church for a long time, Mr. Nunziata. What is this?
Again, this is just simply there was no maintenance bond posted. The improvements are done, but until they can post a 2-year maintenance bond, which is required by law, they're denied.
Okay, so they still haven't posted it?
That's correct.
Have we spoke to the pastor and business?
The guarantees coordinator usually gives them about 4 or 5 attempts before she actually does this, because it's very simple. You just substitute one for the other at a 15% premium.
Yeah. Okay. I had a question on it because I noticed it was brought up numerous times over the last couple of years.
What do you have on 9B19 for us?
There's a memo attached to the
25th.
the resolution, March 27th, by Mr. Nunziata. We inspected the site and found all the deficiencies outlined in the letter dated October 25th have been addressed. So that's why we're now recommending.
Okay.
All right, fine.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we do have a motion and a second. Any final questions or comments? All right, hearing none, roll call, please, on all items excluding 9C8.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. All right, before we move on, let's just handle 9C8 before we move to ordinances. Is there a nomination for the vacancy, which I believe is an alternate vacancy, to the planning board?
I make a motion, we nominate, I'd like to nominate Susan Schroeder-Clark to the alternate 2 spot.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? All right, we'll close nominations. We have a motion and a second on a candidate. Hearing no other motions or nominations, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. All right, let's go back to,
Mayor, I just wanted to bring to your attention, we have 9C1, 9C2, and also this resolution 9B37.
the 9Cs I would have thought we would have done since they're asterisked under,
No, they're
The ones
not.
that aren't asterisked
I'm sorry,
are the
okay.
appointments.
Yep,
And
sure.
then there's another resolution before you about the lease agreement.
9B37?
Right.
I got added on.
Okay. All right, let's just quickly, 9C1 and 2, these are resignations from the Recreation Advisory and Affordable Housing. Is anyone prepared tonight to make any nominations to fill these vacancies? I don't think so. All right, so could we have a motion, please, to accept the resignations pursuant to 9C1 and 2?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, roll call, please, on 9C1 and 9C2.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes, 9B37. Mr. Bongiovanni, why don't you give the council an overview?
Very, very briefly,
Hold on one second. Ms. Dalton?
To go back to 9C1, Mr. Mayor, the chairwoman of the advisory committee did recommend that we appoint Mr. Roland Gagny to that open slot, and therefore I think that
You willing to
if
make a
it's
motion?
acceptable, I would like to move that.
Okay, we have a motion, we need a
Second.
second. We have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close nominations. The person again is
Roland Gagny, or Gagne, G-A-G-N-E.
Gagny.
Gagny.
Gagne, perhaps.
Yeah.
Gagne. Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Mr. Bongiovanni, 9B37, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This came up very suddenly to my office from a phone call from our telecommunications advisor and expert, Mr. O'Scanlan, regarding the continuing lease of one of the sites. I think this is one located on Aldrich Road. And this is the Fifth Amendment to the lease since it's been signed, since it was originally signed November 7th. The resolution, and more importantly, what you have attached to it, the lease amendment, recites the history of all the other amendments to this lease. These latest ones are probably the least important ones. It simply seeks to clarify a contradiction in the original lease, which provided for a initial 5-year term with 5 successive 5-year right to renewal options, whereas the memorandum that was attached to the lease, called Exhibit C, said it was supposed to be a 10-year term with 3 rights, a right to renew it 3 times. I thought and discussed it with Mr. O'Scanlan that the lease should really take precedence over this memorandum, which were both signed on the same day. And apparently he agrees, and OmniPoint agrees. So we're just fixing that contradiction that was in the lease itself. And the second change is that they always provide in all their cell towers for general insurance of $1 million and a $5 million umbrella policy for liability purposes, whereas the original lease said they would provide $2 million in general liability insurance. I think the $1 million plus the $5 million umbrella policy is substantially equivalent or better, so we've made those 2 changes. Apparently that was very much needed in order to get this
so it's your recommendation this is appropriate for the council's approval and my signature?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions from the council? We'll entertain a motion, please, on 9B37 as just outlined by Mr. Bongiovanni.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second, Mayor.
And a second. Any final comments or remarks? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton?
Yes.
Mrs. Showmaker?
She stepped out.
She's absent the chamber at the moment.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to call the council's attention to 8A1. This is a public hearing and adoption slated for 0083. This is amending Chapter 57 of our ordinance regarding cat registration. Accordingly, ordinance number 0083, introduced and passed on the first reading on March 18, 2008, and published according to law, is now being taken upon further consideration and a public hearing. Affidavit of publication of the ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of March 21, 2008 is submitted, and is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and the copies were available to the general public upon request. Ms. Woman, would you please read the title of the ordinance?
An ordinance of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, New Jersey, amending Chapter 57, Animals, Article 11, entitled Domestic Animals, Section 57-11, Vaccination and Registration of Cats, of the Code of the Township of Howell.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the meeting to members of the public for a public hearing, accepting remarks for or against the potential adoption of this ordinance. Anyone from the public who'd like to be recognized, please come forward. Is there anyone who'd like to be recognized? Let the record reflect no one is asked to be heard in the public portion. I'm going to close the public portion, ask a member of the council to make a motion.
Motion ordinance number 0-08-3 be finally passed and adopted, and notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 4/25/08 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any final comments or remarks from the council? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. Dalton? Mrs. Showmaker? Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mayor DeBella?
Yes. All right, for the benefit of the public, the governing body's next workshop meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 6th. We have an executive session at 6:30. Our regular session shall begin at approximately 7:30 p.m. Our public participation meeting is Tuesday, May 13th, 7:30 p.m. in these chambers. And our regular meeting for the month of May is Tuesday, May 20th, executive session at 6:30, regular at 7:30. Mrs. Schlegel, is there any other business for the council's consideration?
Nothing else, Mayor.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mayor.
All those in favor? Aye. Have a good night.